You hear this term thrown around on the news all the time. GDP. It's supposed to be this huge number that tells us how a country's doing. But what is it really? Like, how do they even calculate it? Well, today we're going to demystify the whole thing. I mean, think about it. How do you actually measure the health of an entire country's economy? You've got millions of people buying and selling stuff every single day. How could you possibly track all of that? Turns out, there's a system for it. And you know where we're going to find the answer? Right here, inside a grade 11 economics textbook from Ethiopia's Ministry of Education. Yep, we're going back to basics. We're going to learn this from the ground up, step by step, just like we're back in the classroom.
Okay, so here's the game plan. We'll start with how nations even measure their economies. Then, we'll get a solid definition of GDP. After that, the fun part. We'll run through a real textbook calculation. We'll also break down the difference between nominal and real GDP. And finally, we'll talk about why this number is such a big deal.
All right, so first things first. Before we can even get into GDP, we need to understand the big picture, the system that it's a part of.
And that system is called national income accounting. Honestly, the best way to think about it is like a country's financial bookkeeping. It's the framework economists use to measure all the economic activity and give leaders a clear snapshot of what's going on. And the single most famous, most talked about metric in that whole system? You guessed it, GDP. So let's get a crystal clear definition of what that actually means. So, our textbook defines it as the total market value of all final goods and services produced within a country's borders in a specific time period. Now, there are a couple of really key words in there. Final is crucial. It means we count the finished car, but not the steel or the tires that went into it. That avoids double counting. And domestic means it only counts stuff made inside the country's physical borders. So, how do they add it all up? Well, the most common way is what's called the expenditure approach. It's actually pretty simple. You just add up all the spending in the economy. That means everything you and I buy as consumers, everything businesses invest in new equipment, all the money the government spends, and then net exports. And that's just a fancy way of saying a country's total exports minus its total imports.
Okay, theory is great and all, but let's be real. The best way to wrap your head around this is to actually do the math. So let's solve a problem straight out of our textbook.
We're going to tackle this exact workout problem right here. It's a hypothetical economy that keeps things super simple. It only produces two things, wheat and automobiles. This is the perfect way to see how the gears really turn on this calculation. All right, so here's our data. We've got the prices and production numbers for wheat and cars in two different years, 2000 and 2021. And right away, notice something really important. Both the prices and the number of things produced have gone up. That's going to be a key detail in just a minute. Oh, and the currency here, ETB, is the Ethiopian beer. So the first thing we're going to calculate is something called nominal GDP. This is the most basic, straightforward version. All you do is take the amount of stuff produced in a given year and multiply it by the price of that stuff in that exact same year.
So let's do this for the year 2021. Step 1, we find the total value of the wheat. That's the 2,400 units they produced times the 2021 price of 2,000 beer. Simple enough? Step 2, we do the same for the cars. 1,500 cars times their 2021 price, which is 300,000 beer. And the final step, you just add those two big numbers together.
And there we have it. The nominal GDP for our little economy in 2021 comes out to 454.8 million beer. Now, that number represents the total value of everything they made at the prices people were paying in 2021. But is that the whole story? Not quite. See, to get a real picture of economic growth, we have to calculate what's called real GDP. And this, my friends, is where things get really insightful. Real GDP is designed to strip away the effects of price changes, inflation, by valuing everything using constant prices from one single base year. So, to get the real GDP for 2021, we're going to use the 2021 production numbers again. So 2,400 wheat, 1,500 cars. But, and here's the huge difference, we're going to multiply them by the prices from our base year, the year 2000. So we're using those older, lower prices for both the wheat and the cars. And wow, look at that. The real GDP is only 122.4 million beer. That is way different from the almost 455 million we got for nominal GDP. So what on earth explains that massive gap? Well, that huge gap gets us right to the heart of the matter, the crucial difference between nominal and real GDP. So here's the bottom line. Nominal GDP can go up just because prices went up, because of inflation. It doesn't automatically mean the economy produced more stuff.
But real GDP, that's different. By locking in the prices from a base year, it isolates the actual change in output. It tells us if we're genuinely producing more goods and services than we did before.
And this is exactly why economists and policymakers obsess over real GDP. It cuts through the noise of inflation to answer the one question that really matters. Did our country actually make more stuff this year than last year? It separates real, tangible growth from what could just be an illusion caused by rising prices.
Okay, so we've done the math, we understand the difference, but why? Why does this one number, GDP, carry so much weight?
Well, think about it. By tracking real GDP over time, leaders can see if their economy is expanding or contracting, and that helps them make massive policy decisions on things like taxes or interest rates. It also gives us a standardized way to compare the economic firepower of different countries. It really is the ultimate economic scorecard.
And that brings us to a final really important thought. We've seen that GDP is an incredibly powerful tool for measuring the size of an economy and how much it's growing. But at the end of the day, it's still just one number. It tells us how much stuff was made, but it doesn't tell us how that wealth is spread around or what it means for the actual well-being of the people living their daily lives. So it measures output for sure, but does it measure progress? And that's a question that's always worth thinking about.